Crazy Sid, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Pre- Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, so, um, before I get into the topics, I know you have your usuals, which I don't know if you're in the mood to talk about them. You're not in the mood to talk about incest, veganism, or portals?
I mean, I'd like, yeah, and not abortion.
Okay, not aborted. Cool, cool, cool. No, I got other topics. Okay, so the one which I wanted to talk about is the importance of groupthink, and because I know you said a lot that groupthink is cancerous. I think you've said culture is cancerous, and obviously to some extent that like culture has its problems, groupthink has its problems, but I just wanted to see, do you think that it has no value, or do you think that it's completely
I wish we could transcend it. I mean, it has an obvious value to it. There's a massive value to that type of stuff, I think. I just wish it didn't. We didn't need it.
do you think it has any value to you personally, or do you think that you couldn't benefit at all from
I think much less value to me than it does to other people. But it would be obviously extremely stupid of me to say that I'm completely free of like the culture around me or whatever, or the influence of it.
well, not necessarily that, but I guess what I mean is, for example, like, do you have things where you think where you would do one thing, but then you know that the cultural norm and you know that the group, like 80 to 90% of people would do this thing, and because the group thinks that, then you go with the group instead of what you.
Almost never. I can't think of a thing that I would do that with.
Okay, so I guess a lot of what I think is that, especially in like our formative years, for example,
Mm-hmm.
like there are a lot of mistakes. Like I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I'm sure you have too. And I do think that you learn a lot from making mistakes, and
Mm-hmm.
that there's a lot of value in that, making your own mistakes and trying to figure out things out for yourself without the group, and then learning from that, as opposed to just following the group. You don't really learn as much. There's definitely value in that,
Mm-hmm.
but there are also, I think, a lot of big mistakes that you can make, which there are long-term consequences which are like could be devastating, where especially for a younger person, and even people like our age, I mean, we're relatively young, like for example, like drugs is something where the group think is to say, okay, don't do it, and someone who's more individualistic might look into that, and then they might make a mistake there, and then they might do some horrible damage to themselves, and you might even, with your whole thing, you might do a lot of damage to yourself. Things like unprotected sex, for example. This is something, like in your case, it's worked out okay for you, where like you were able to financially support your kid and all that. But like in your younger years, for example, when you had a kid from unprotected sex, if you had gone with like the group think of just don't do that, it's never like a good idea to do, which 80-90%
Yeah,
of
so the difference
percent
is that like I would hope that we could arrive at some of these conclusions like reasonably, like be given the tools to arrive at some of these conclusions reasonably, rather than require like cultural pressures to group think you there. Because then like if you're relying on like the group to kind of push people in that direction, then you can have push them in bad directions as well, and they wouldn't have the tools to like self audit to avoid like negative group think. Right? Is my problem?
for sure. But I think a lot of, because especially as an individual, like we are prone to our own biases. I'm like, the group can be wrong and the individual can be wrong for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think for certain things, I think there is a value, at least for society, and I think as an individual, to be able to say it. Like for example, with something, I think sex is a good example of something where it is a place where an individual is very capable of making irrational decisions for short-term gain as opposed to long-term. But I mean, that's pretty much the example where someone can say in that moment, this is the thing to do, and they just say as an individual, they can rationalize for themselves. But if they have enough of a groupthink mentality to say, okay, you know what, the group says this is a bad idea. I've seen the commercials. I remember the my health class
Sure.
and all
For
that.
every good example you give, I can give a bad example though, right? This isn't really a good argument.
Well, I think like there's a value in finding the things where we are prone to be more rational. I guess like would you like I think like for example, sex, drugs, and in general like things like not challenging yourself are things where we are by pretty much the nature of those things, they are designed almost to get you to. They're pretty much designed to make you make the irrational decisions, like to feed into.
Okay.
Like the whole point of like cigarettes, for example, and like all drugs is we like their point is to make you make an irrational decision, and if those things like they are targeted towards harming biases in yourself, then shouldn't just saying, okay, you know what, even if I think right now for me it is okay for me to smoke, I just need to appeal to the group is the way to go in this, like kind of accepting our own irrationality in certain ways. Like,
Well, hold on.
I
If you've
guess,
got the tools to identify which behaviors are irrational, and then you decide to go with the culture on that, then you didn't really go with the culture. You made the decision not to do it. So you didn't really need the groupthink there at all, right? You already had the ability to self-audit and figure out what was good or not.
I think more from like a category perspective more than anything. Like, for example, when I was like 19 or 20 or something like that, I couldn't think of a good reason not to smoke marijuana every day, because it's a really hard thing not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a long time before I realized that, if you smoke marijuana every day, like, despite the fact that there's not going to be any long-term negatives of it, like, to explain the reasons why it's not good, like, smoke marijuana every day or something like that, or do drugs every day, it is very difficult for like a person to understand.
Yeah, but again, you're only giving me good examples. Like, what about like hating Muslims? Like, this is an idea that we can inherit culturally pretty easily.
Yeah, but I do think, like, the larger idea, like, I do think that most people don't hate Muslims. At least I don't think so.
Well, in the United States, I mean, that's arguable, depending on which groups you're talking about.
But do you think, like, especially when it comes to things like I don't have the means of like studying like if I don't have the means of studying like strict psychology, or in that case religion or something, appealing to, like, being able to say, you know what, I don't have enough knowledge on this subject, I just need to appeal to the group on this. I don't know enough to say whether or not I should or shouldn't hate Muslims, or should or shouldn't use drugs. Maybe using this drug is a good idea, but I don't have the capability of properly studying this for myself. I need to appeal to the group in this
Yeah, but
situation.
I guess what you're saying there doesn't really sound like groupthink to me. That sounds like an individual, like, that sounds like an individual, like, making a decision to trust like an authority figure. Like, for instance, like, I don't have the necessary time to measure out like the efficiency of every single car, so I'm just going to rely on, I don't know if it'd be what is the emissions, is the EPA is in charge of like miles per gallon listing on cars and shit, like making sure that's accurate. Like, I would trust them to do it, but I don't know if I would consider that groupthink so much as like relying on like an authority figure to tell you what's okay or not okay. I think that's a little different, no?
I think I'm trying to think, like, maybe for more specific things, like specific technology working, sure. But I think, like, even for like the grand decision, like, I guess picking out ideas, I think even in the
Well,
form of
it's
ideas, there
what's
can
like an
be.
idea, like what's something that you think like you wouldn't be able to like figure out on your own, assuming you have like a reasonable thought process that you would need to like appeal to like a kind of like a group identity to figure out.
I think one big one, like another like trap I fell into, I guess when I was like 19, 20, around that time, is that I felt a lot more comfortable like being in my own shell and being as an individual,
Wait, in
and I didn't
1920
really
you did?
feel, yeah, around there.
Wait,
At
how
least like
old are you?
I'm 20.
Oh, never mind. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so around that time, like, I felt like that kind of, because I guess, like, we all have our like introverted moods now and then, where we're just like, that was more like, I discovered more the internet. Oh my god, I could just listen to podcasts, I could like watch streams, and I could do all that stuff. I don't need to socialize, I don't need to go make friends, I don't need to do any of that, because at least for now, at least for the near future, I'm feeling a lot more happy doing this, listening to music, doing all this stuff. I know the conventional wisdom, which I had been following for all my younger years, for the first 18 years of my life. Like, I forced myself to socialize, I forced myself to be friends with all people, make friends, socialize, do all that stuff. But then once, like, I decided, you know what, I don't need to go, just, I was told all that time I need to do that, but maybe I'm just different. Maybe I don't need to do all those things. I think that's like an example of that. And I like those things where, like, there are times where you have certain behaviors which are suboptimal, and the group kind of knows what is generally optimal for a human, like, as far as optimizing your happiness. Like, the group knows that you should make friends, and like, the more you socialize, the happier you are, and things like that. Obviously, there are like
What about
things
like the
such as
fact that
social
so many
media that's the
people are like
opposite.
depressed and shit today? And
Yeah, for sure. And like, I'm not saying like just completely listen to the group for everything.
well, but this is the
And
thing. What I'm saying is like it's an all or nothing. Like, you can't selectively listen to the group, because once you're selectively listening to the group, you're no longer listening to the group. So like, if you've like a decision tree, right? You either are step one, or you kind of go with everything that society says. If there's a step prior to that where you have to evaluate whether or not what society says is good or bad, then you're appealing to some higher order like thought process to get there. Does that make sense?
I think what
Yeah.
I would do, like, I would appeal to first. I would say this is a decision too complicated for me. I think being able to say this decision is too complicated for me, I'm just going to appeal to the group. I think that is a very valuable skill to
Yeah, if you can
have.
do
It's a
that, that's
valuable.
fine. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I think everybody has to do that. You can't possibly know everything about everything for sure. But that's not just going along with the group. I don't think. I think
Yeah,
that's a
for sure.
different thing. Right?
Yeah, I think like even as you're doing it, like, you could still think about that and all that. Okay. Um. Okay. Let me get to another one. Um. Oh, I guess it just is like a more personal thing because I know like you said you were feeling like depressed and all that stuff earlier, and
I'm feeling
I
depressed.
kind of noticed that of it also. I thought you were saying you were feeling like that's why you need to go to New Zealand and all that stuff and like
Oh,
kind
that was
of
just dumb
I kind
relationship
of know.
shit. That was just fucking stupid as fuck. Don't worry, I'm here though. I'm all done over
Oh,
that.
are you feeling good? Oh, okay,
Yep.
that's good. Okay, that was the 10 seconds of nice chat. Okay, next topic. Um. Okay, this topic is: do you believe that it is wrong to help someone to do something that would be negative for themselves? For example, let's say you're in a room with someone and you have a knife and someone wants to cut themselves. Do you and they don't have a knife and they have no other access to a knife. Do you think if they ask you for the knife that you are morally obligated? I guess you don't really believe in moral obligation. Are you morally obligated to give them the knife or not give them the knife? Or yeah, what do you think about that?
Um. I mean, it would depend on whether or not you would view them harming themselves as a right or a wrong thing.
Well, I think we could assume, like for example, like the regular cuts, like not like deep cuts, and like the cutting your wrist thing, like it's bad. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely bad. It's not catastrophic, but it's bad. So, do you think you have a moral obligation to not hand them the knife, or
Kind
maybe
of, yeah. I
even
mean,
the
I don't
moral
think you
obligation
should.
to
Yeah,
hand
no,
them
I
the
don't think you should enable behavior like that. It's probably pretty bad.
knife? Okay, fair enough. Do you think that applies to? Okay, you know what? No, I wouldn't get into that topic. Okay. The other topic is driving and speeding. So this is something where I had a recent experience with this, and I know that you have your thing on speeding and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Just so my quick story that happened recently for me. I was speeding. Well, not speeding. No, sorry, I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't say that. I was going like maybe like 5 above the limit or something. Someone else made an illegal turn. It was a very bad. They basically drove right in front of me,
Yeah.
and it's been ruled insurance, all that, not my fault, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do feel like if I had been going slower, it still would have hit. There's no way the hit could have been avoided. The
Mm-hmm.
damage could have been slightly reduced.
For sure.
And if I had been going faster, then like say if I was speeding by say 15 or 20 kilometers an hour,
Mm-hmm.
I might be dead, and that when someone in that other car might be dead. So
What the? Wait, are you
to
Canadian?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
just I said kilometers. Oh,
Well,
my
yeah, but
bad.
you sound American. But so you're obviously Canadian. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So do you think like what do you think about speeding? Like do you speed on like I don't want to say residential roads, like for example if it's like a two lane street, 2 lanes on each side, I guess a total of 4, do you think it's acceptable to go like above like 30 or 40 in those areas? I guess 30 or 40 miles per hour.
Sure. Well, I mean, I do. I mean, it depends on the road. I mean, I typically don't speed on like when you say residential stuff. I don't like driving quickly near like parked cars because things can pop out. And that makes me really uncomfortable. But I mean, like on like a 2 lane like non-residential road, yeah, I probably do.
Well, in the case of mine, like it was someone they were turning left out of a mall, and they looked to one side, they looked to the right, they just didn't see me at all.
Sure. I mean,
um
like the most important thing is acknowledging that what you said on whether or not that's true, which is if you were going faster, would it have prevented you from getting into an accident or would it have caused more damage? That's almost the answer to that should almost always be yes. Anytime you increase speed past a certain level or from any level, you're increasing the ability for you to get into an accident or the probability of you getting an accident, and then whatever accident you get into is going to be made worse because you're going faster. I mean, that's almost always true with very rare exceptions.
yeah, for sure, like especially like with the ability to, if someone else makes a mistake, being able to cover for that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Your reaction times can only be so fast as we're only human, right?
Okay, yeah. um Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you, because I think you've talked a lot about like you say you aren't interested in strategy at all. So I'm wondering why aren't you interested? Or, no, sorry, this is like the strategy of like politics and all that, like strategically changing people's
Rhetoric,
mind
right?
and all
It's
that.
just I'm not as
Yeah,
interested in that,
rhetoric.
but
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So I'm wondering why aren't you interested in that? Like, do you not find? Because I think like the psychology of why people believe what they believe, like the biases that like there are people who are otherwise very very smart people, who because of cognitive biases for whatever reason can fall into certain traps. And
Yeah,
the
I mean it's
ways that
interesting. I used to growing up. I used to be like a level like I was like a level 2 sociopath where like manipulating people or lying to people was like very fun for me and like very edgy. It made me feel really good. Like pulling off a good lie feels very good. But now I'm like a level 4 sociopath where it's like I just don't care about people enough to even go through that trouble. Like I guess like growing up, it used to be like if I felt like I wanted something out of somebody, like telling a certain number of lies or weaving together certain tales and like fooling people felt really good. But nowadays, I feel like if I have to lie to somebody, I'm just not gonna fucking talk to them anyway because it's not worth my fucking time. So when you talk about like rhetoric, maybe when I was younger, that would have been like more exciting to me. But now it's just like if I have to lie to somebody to convince them that what I'm saying is true, it's just very boring to me, and I just don't care to do it. It's like what, yeah. So I
isn't
mean,
that just isn't that to some extent like what like a competitive game like is like, for example, in StarCraft or even in League or something, like isn't the thrill of that like the outwitting another person? Like isn't that what like the competitive instinct is?
um, maybe if that's how you compete. But I mean,
I mean,
I don't. No. That's like saying like, isn't that like if you like StarCraft, shouldn't you also like football? Because I mean, isn't that the thrill of StarCraft is winning the game, and you also win games in football? Like,
yeah, do you not like enjoy the thrill of competition? I guess like that's something I really like.
not that
That's
type of
why I,
competition. No, who can like tell a better story is not. That's just not as entertaining to me. There's more entertaining things like figuring out like what the correct answer is more entertaining to me there than like who can tell like a better story to get somebody on their side. Is for me at least.
okay, fair enough. No, I was just wondering like what your opinion is that. And I guess where that kind of gets into is because I kind of feel like I mean, I'm sure you get this a lot that people feel like they're in similar boats to you and that for certain things. But one thing, like your priority, I think you've said a lot is like your happiness, and that's like your priority.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like I don't know when I'm looking too much at short term or too much at long term happiness. And I'm wondering in your case, do you think that you strategize well for your long-term happiness? Like I think one example of this where I don't know, like you've talked about whether or not you have addiction or something like that, and seeking immediate sexual pleasure over seeking a loving relationship. Like have you like put a lot of thought into that?
I think I'm too busy for most women, so I mean that's where I'm at. I would have to make significant. It seems like I would have to make significant changes to my life, or find a woman that is like okay with me paying like far less attention to her than I guess most people expect to be paid attention to in a relationship. So I mean,
Do you think you're interested in love? Like is that something where like
I
is
mean, I
that
kind
something
of
you're
feel that
seeking?
way, but I don't want to make like a significant change to my life to get there.
Do you think that that's going to lead to like your optimal happiness in terms of
Well, I
like
mean, I
just
haven't
like
found
living
somebody
in
right
love?
now that I'm willing to give up like a significant chunk of my career for. So I mean,
I mean, as far as like the people in your life who you like have loved and like you have made sacrifices for, do you not feel like your life is better off like for having them, or
um,
do you not?
I mean, like in terms of like for women, I mean, I don't know. I just haven't found someone where it's like, oh, I want to sacrifice. I guess I almost did, but I don't know. If I find that person, I will. I mean, it's not like I don't know what I mean. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, load up like 52,000 like OK Cupid profiles? Like, if I run into this person, I will. I mean, like, I'm available to it, but I'm just not like actively seeking. I don't have the time to do this. I don't even know if this person exists. Like,
Well, not to appeal to cultural norms here, but isn't this an aspect where like the vast majority of people and like they are seeking out love? Like this is what our culture tells us to do. This is what our media tells us to do. This is what all of our ancestors have done is seeked out love, seeked out a loving relationship with a person
yeah, sure, but I've
to make
lived
a
like
loving.
the vast majority of my life in a far more lonely state than most people, and I seem to do like really well in that state. So I mean, I don't know if I feel the same pressures or drives to like find somebody like everybody else does. So I mean, I think I'm okay.
Do you feel like there may be some biases which are stopping you from doing like from like this short you like making the short-term sacrifice that would give you the
No, I
long-term
don't think so.
results
I
for
think
that?
I'm pretty honest with myself. I mean, I enjoy what I do right now. I enjoy the different people I get to associate with, and I enjoy the freedom that I have. I mean, I've tried. I mean, I've been married, right? And I have like, you know, like I've had long-term relationships. Like it's not like I've never been in a relationship before, and I don't know what it would be like to finally settle down. Like, I mean, I've tried all these things before.
So would you say that to, I guess to use the question, would you say you've given love a chance, I guess, or you've
I
given a
mean,
try and
I
you just feel
think
like
so.
it's not
Yeah,
for
and
you?
again, I'm still like open to it. It's just not something that I'm like actively like I'm just not. I don't have somebody like that right now. I just don't. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. I'm. This is something. The main reason I'm asking, it's not just like for the sake of like analyzing you. It's for the sake of like I need to know for myself, because I'm getting up there too, and I have the
What
similar
the
thing
fuck
of
do you
like
mean getting up
I
there? Damn, chill. I'm only 30. Holy fuck. Talking
I'm
like I'm
27.
75. Holy shit. Sorry, I
I'm
could
gonna
go.
be 28 soon. I feel like a grandpa, and like
Yes.
I'm wondering for myself, like should I be going out and seeking love? Because I do sometimes have that feeling like I do want love. I do like
Yeah,
I
I
do
mean, if you're
feel that
super
drive
fucking
for sure.
lonely, if that's like a big thing, then yeah, then you should be like making okay Cupid profiles or going out and socializing more and putting yourself out there. I think would be really healthy for you.
Yeah, but I don't want to sacrifice my lifestyle. So
Well, I mean, at the end of the
I
day, I mean, like, here's the thing, right? Time passes no matter what you do. You're going to be 35 in 7 years, no matter what happens. There's no way that you can avoid that. So when you hit that age, you can either look back and think, well, I could have set aside these things and found somebody to love and I would have that. Or, well, I decided to pursue these things that I thought made me happy and now I have that, right? At some point, you have to make the decision on whether or not that's worth it or not for you. I mean, like in looking back, I don't know if I would be happy giving up all the things related to my career in order to find somebody to love. I don't think I would be happy with that. So, I mean, that's just a decision that I've made. Nobody else can make that decision for you, though.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I just wanted to get your input on that because like that's something I'm thinking about a lot for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Um, okay, so there's one more topic. What do you think about emote spam specifically? I want to talk about one which I think is kind of like a more racist one, and I think it's kind of ironic. It's going to be ironic the way I'm bringing it up. I think the "come on, bruh" emote is used in a racist way, which I don't think is good. Like for example, anytime anyone uses the word black, they'll say, "Oh my god, come on, bro! What's he trying to say? He used the word black," or like even if they're just referring to the color.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Unfortunately, people like if someone uses the word steel or something like that, they'll
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, what you trying to say?" Something like that. Um,
I'm generally okay with this one right now, and I might change how I feel about it in the future, but I'm generally okay because usually, and I'm relying on my own observation here, so maybe I missed up. Usually when I see people say, come on, bro, it's usually in regards to like somebody saying something that could be perceived as racist. That's usually how I see it used. Now, maybe it's possible that's not how it always is, but if that's like the case, I'm okay with that.
do you think that might push the stereotype that whoa, you got to watch what you say around black people because if you say the wrong thing around black people, they're just gonna go crazy. They're not gonna be happy with you.
Well, I mean, you should watch what you say around anybody. I mean, like not just black people, but like
Yeah, but that's kind of what it is. Like black people now on Twitch, at least, black people have
oh, and
become the face
I'm sorry,
of
real quick to
you shouldn't
qualify
say
this.
this. Right?
This is just what I think about in my chat. I don't know how it's used in other chats. It's probably used in a really fucking racist way in other chats. I'm not. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, for sure, she's in other chats too. But I also feel like, and this is the thing that kind of makes it ironic, is that I kind of also think it plays into the thing of SJWs and all that stuff being oversensitive, where you know, oh, you could say even if you say the word black, then SJWs are going to go crazy over it, and oh, black people are going to overreact like crazy if you use the word black. They're going to go crazy and they're going to say, oh, that's racist, that's racist. So
I mean, like I said, like if I say something in chat where if I say something, I'm like, I'm not trying to sound racist or whatever, but like, I might say something like, can black people get sunburned, right? Like this is like these are questions I've had in the past. I'm not sure. Like, do darker skinned people get sunburned? And people are like, oh, come on, bro, or whatever. It's kind of like a dude, like that's racist or whatever. Like in that kind of a meme joke, I think it's okay, right? I'm generally looking like when I try to think of like is a joke harmful or not. I'm generally trying to think of like what's the punchline. If the punchline is literally like LOL black people, then that's probably not like a good punchline, right? It's probably not what we want, right? But if the punchline is like LOL, maybe that's racist, like I mean that's okay. That's an okay punchline. I don't think that's necessarily bad.
Don't you think the punchline of that joke is, oh, black people are overly sensitive?
No, I don't think so. I feel like you have to read. I think that's a reach. It feels like a reach to me. I could be wrong, I guess, but
Okay, yeah, I just thought it was something to think about. I'm not as like as much as I sometimes participate in emote spam.
mm-hmm.
I'm not much of a fan of a person who, like, another one I don't like is anytime anyone brings up something sexual, they bring up gachigasm, which makes me think that like the role of gay people is for sexual things to happen. But I guess
There's a lot of really fucked up stuff related to homosexuality that at some point I should probably talk about more. But like, yeah, like homosexuality is basically used as a punchline in a lot of things. Like it's literally like LOL gay people rape people and it's funny. LOL nothing's funnier than straight guys getting raped. And even like in a punitive sense, we use it like LOL you're gonna go to prison and get fucking raped. Ha! Like yeah, like there's a lot of really kind of negative ways that we deal with like I like homosexuality in society is pretty fucking weird. I think it's pretty unhealthy, but that's kind of a whole other thing to deal with. But yeah, I probably agree with you there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because more there, and then to be clear, like there, the punchline is more because the punchline there a lot of the times is like, "LOL, that's gay," and that's funny, like on its own. Like fucking gay is funny because it's gay because it's so fucking weird. It's gay, you know. And it's like, okay, I don't know how I feel about that. It makes me feel a little weird.
Yeah, I sometimes get that sense from like the like over homoeroticism between like straight friends. Although I don't think that's as big of a deal. That's kind of like but
well, no, because I feel it's similar there even as well because that's literally the same thing. It's like, dude, like LOL gay, like, and it's like, okay, you know, like I don't know, like the punchline is literally like that's so funny, and it's literally just funny because it's gay. Like that's the joke, you know. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it's just kind of a. I don't know. I'm not as comfortable with that, I guess.
Oh yeah. I think I agree with you there. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just okay. Promise is the last one, and it's kind of more fun. Do you have an idea for like a long-term game which you're going to be playing? Because I feel like it's nice to like nowadays like it's harder to like watch like the gaming stuff on your stream, and then like obviously like the stuff you say. I'm sure you know too that like that's like the main appeal of the stream now. So do you think that like you're going to find like a true long-term game that you could play, the chat can kind of be like invested in and you can go with?
I don't know, maybe. I kind of wanted to do Apex Legends, but I wish that game would have a fucking ladder. I actually really enjoy playing Apex Legends, so I might play that more. We'll see how WoW Classic goes too. Maybe that'll end up being something pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully. All right. Thanks a lot for indulging all my shit.
Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Have fun.